All right, we are in week 3, everyone, actually over halfway through with week 3 of our 4-week course. And I wanted to give you a reminder on the active listening assignment. Has anyone been writing down your instances of active listening this week? Good, good. Kyle. Better go to that assignment. Okay, but you're honest. I like that too. It's Monday through Friday, Jessica, so you should have about 5 paragraphs then. And remember, this is in place of the week 3 quiz. It is kind of a fun assignment. You're right. It makes you really think about something you don't normally think about, which is just listening to people, how much you actively listen to your students, to your kids. Okay, good. Okay, good, Kyle. You know, even listening to the person in the Walmart checkout line, sometimes you get a teller that's extra chatty, and that's okay too, and you can try out your active listening skills there. So be sure and continue doing that listening activity. Just a little bit for each day is what you need. Okay, and lastly, since we're in week 3 and next week will be our final week, all assignments are due by Sunday, July 10th by midnight. So please do look ahead, look in the grade book, make sure you have things turned in. I believe I currently have everything up to date, so if you're missing something that you turned in, please let me know. Assignments have been known to get lost, especially if they're submitted via email, which we have to do sometimes. Or sometimes they don't come up on My Course Connection correctly either. So check your points, make sure you've got the ones in there for all your assignments. And if you're missing something, please do turn it in, guys. I always accept late assignments. I'll take things from week 1 and week 4. Okay, oh, there's Miss Jasmine. Hi, Jasmine. Fantastic. Week 3 is currently, so we're currently in week 3, and that will end on July 3rd, you're right. And so week 4 begins on the 4th of July, our final week, and ends on July 10th. I believe if I've got those numbers right. And of course, you guys are welcome to take that Monday off in your brain if you need to, okay? Nice holiday. All right, what do we have next? We're going to be talking about building family partnerships as we have been. We're going to go into a few more specifics. This is one of my favorite lectures we get to do in this class. We're exploring a little bit about personal identities, and I want you to think of, look at this wheel and consider yourself. When we think about identities, when we think about our roles in teaching, in society, in our family, we don't often think about all the things that comes together to make us the person we are. So if you go with the inner circle, you'll look at age, race, ethnicity, gender, physical abilities and qualities, sexual affection and orientation. All of these core things go in to making you who you are. And that's really just where we start from, right? That's a lot of things right there. Then if we go to the outward circle, you've got your income, marital status, if you've had military experience. And at first I was like, well, why would that be there? Well, the reason is military experience is a definite brotherhood and sisterhood. If you've been in the military, you really connect with other veterans. So that's definitely a part of you. They understand you and the things that you've gone through. Religious beliefs, the geographic location that you grow up in, or maybe the geographic location that you're currently living. your parental status, your education, your work background. So I don't know if you've ever thought about all those things together, but really there's so much that goes into making you the person you are, and there's nobody else like you. Just remember that. There's nobody else in the world that's exactly like you. So what we want to do with ECE is we want everyone to feel safe. We want everyone to feel welcomed and valued. And, you know, we've talked about this a lot with connecting with our families and the importance of them feeling like they're part of a partnership, which we talked about on our discussion boards last week, I believe it was. And I really like that discussion board thread of all the different things that come up, so really neat. We talked about a little bit of this, teacher attitudes conducive to family partnerships. And remember, we really don't like the term family education because it sounds like they're being told what to do. With a family partnership, it is the caregiver and the teachers working together as a unit. So good attitudes involve having a concept of professionalism as a teacher, having a sense of self, and I know that sounds kind of strange, but in the beginning as a teacher, you're a little overwhelmed, and sometimes you're not sure who you are, what type of teacher you are, what type of curriculum you are really drawn through, and you will figure those things out as you go along through experience. Also, as a teacher, having humility and being able to admit when you did something wrong, because it's going to happen. We all make mistakes. Don't cover it up. Go ahead and own it and learn from it, right? Move forward. You also need to have compassion for your families, for your students, respect for others, fellow teachers, and be respectful in all the words that you use at the care center when talking to other teachers or talking about other teachers, because those little bitty eyes are always watching you. Trustworthiness as well. We really, that was pointed out several times in the discussion board, the importance of parents trusting you to care for their child, because this is, you know, probably their #1 priority in life is that little kiddo, and they really, really need to be able to fully trust you to take care of them in the way, and to educate them in the way that they're comfortable with. Barriers to family partnerships can sometimes be teacher reluctance. And you guys, think about maybe when you were in grade school or junior high or high school, or maybe you've taught in an ECE center. Seems like there's always, you know, that one teacher that kind of keeps to themselves and doesn't necessarily want to reach out and make that connection with parents. They would rather teach on their own in their own classroom. You know, you've seen these before, right? Kind of a fuddy-duddy. There's just a few, but none of you, right? And there's also sometimes a parent reluctance as well. So parents are sometimes afraid of making that partnership, of stepping forward and connecting with the teacher. So it can come from both sides. And then we get into power issues. Who's the most important? Well, of course, the parents are. But some parents can see teachers as sort of stepping over bounds and maybe having too much power, they feel. So you really have to watch that. And again, the trust issue comes up yet again. So we want to connect. Oh, there's Miss Brittany. Hi, Brittany. Brittany. I've got a Brittany D and a Brittany C, so I always have to make sure I've got the right one down. Brittany D, communications basics. Okay, maybe you don't think about this when you're talking to other people, but always be warm and sincere, and as a teacher, you need to smile a lot. You're always smiling? I love that, Kyle, because what that says, if you're always smiling, is that you're approachable, you're personable, that you're just fine talking to parents, to other teachers, to kids. But whereas someone who doesn't smile, and you know, again, you can think of teachers that you've had in the past. It used to be when you would start teaching in public school back in the day, they would say, don't let them see you smile until after Christmas. Oh, you have to, because tattoos scare them. Oh, no, surely not nowadays. It's funny because that came up in my past class, Kyle, in Principles of Business. We were talking about tattoos in the workplace. How some places are perfectly fine with it now, and some places aren't. And my mom is still convinced that if you have one tattoo, you're never going to find a job. So I think we're a lot more accepting, and I have to admit there's some beautiful tattoos out there. There are. So smiling, right, is going to draw them to you. You're a personable person. Oh, you have to cover them up at your job. Exactly. Sometimes that happens as well. And you know, some ECE centers will require that as well. I'm not sure if some of you guys have noticed that at centers that you've worked with or other businesses that you've been with. Sometimes you have to cover them up. So you're smiling. And in writing, as far as your communications go as a teacher, make things in color when you can. Maybe use color ink or color paper sparingly because I know it costs extra. Put in a graphic or two, but not too much. Put borders of material because we want our communications to stand out, and we want our parents to want to read that communication that we've sent to them. Right? Now, verbal communication, these are just examples of different times that you might verbally communicate with the parents or caregivers. At orientation, open house, a welcome phone call, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute. Some centers have parent centers or parent rooms for resources such as computers, books, things that parents can check out and use. Also, parent volunteers. Of course, get-togethers in the classes, maybe parties. Some schools also do home visits as well, where you actually go to the student's home. Parents visiting the room, bulletin boards, which we've talked about, and of course regular conferences, and we're going to talk about that as well. So positive phone call opportunities. There's a really important reason for putting this down here because nobody wants to receive the bad phone call from the teacher, do they? In fact, if you're a parent, you kind of dread that. You see the number come up from the school, and your heart starts pounding, and you're like, oh my gosh, they're in trouble or they're hurt. That's automatically where your brain goes to. You're worried that it's one or the other. So we want to give you an opportunity to make a positive phone call first. What did Major do today? Is Major your son, right, Jessica? Yes, okay, that's what I thought. What has Major done today? Well, before that phone call, we want to maybe call on our parents on the first day of school or before the first day of school to introduce yourself, just to make that positive initial contact because we want them to feel okay with contacting us. Also, you might make a phone call when a student performs a positive behavior. Maybe they did something really caring for another child or they helped out in the classroom. Parents always love to hear what their student has done right, what their kid has done right. When a child applies himself in a special way, maybe going above and beyond. When students show improvement, maybe they brought that math grade up. Maybe they tackled the challenge of learning how to tie their shoes, which is kind of a big one in early childhood. We need to celebrate that. When a student is absent for a day or two, making that phone call and making that parent realize that their child is important to you, that you're worried about them and you're wanting to check in on them. All of these positive contacts will go a long ways in your relationship with your parents. So sort of keep this in mind. And this doesn't have to be in an ECE classroom. It may be in a volunteer situation. It may be, maybe you're coaching a team, and telling the parent about something they did very good can leave a very positive, lasting impression. So communications through correspondence, which this actually connects to an assignment I believe you're doing this week. So let's talk about this just for a minute. Communicating through correspondence, you might send a welcome letter maybe a week or two before school starts. You might send home a classroom calendar of what all's going on that month. I love it when schools do. You might send something home, a special activity. Hey, we're having a Valentine's Day party. It's on this day at this time. And oh my goodness, I cannot count the number of times when my children were growing up that I was like, gosh, I wish I knew when that was happening. What day is that going to be on? I don't know what time it is. So making sure your parents have that information is crucial. Sending home a newsletter, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute, and also always including your contact information on all of your correspondence. I don't care how many times you've sent out your email address or your phone number, do it again and again and again so that it's easy for them to contact that. Now, I don't know if you can see this very well, guys. On the right-hand side of the screen, here's an example of a classroom newsletter that I found on the internet. Now, since I'm on the computer, it's a little bit easier to see. Mr. Rogers' 6th grade class newsletter, so this is for an older student. It has the date. We've got our list of spelling words that we're covering this week, and you know that can easily be used in pre-K and K. What have we learned in the previous week? Upcoming events, including dates and times, something special that's happened in the classroom. We've got reminders at the bottom, and contact information in the lower right-hand corner. This is a good example of a classroom newsletter that could come home with the child to the parent. So why I specifically bring this up is you're doing 2 newsletters, and you know what? I have had 2 people turn theirs in already, so good job. Yay! See, I got to celebrate that. So 2 newsletters. You're going to pick 2 age groups from this list. You decide what age group you would like to address your newsletter to. Infants, toddlers, preschool, kindergartner, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, or school age up to 3rd grade, such as before or after school programs, or maybe a camp newsletter, so you can customize it towards that. So you get the general idea. It needs to be a newsletter that's going to go home to the parents to tell them what's going on that week. Oh, my face froze. I hate it when that happens. So I want you to research online, explore what types of information that some teachers include in their newsletters. And if you type in preschool newsletter in Google and then click on images, you're going to get lots of examples pop up. Or you might even use Pinterest, because we know we love to use Pinterest. There's lots of examples of newsletters there as well. Okay? The most important thing is I want it to be built by you. It needs to be an original. It needs to have your name on there. You can make up your contact information if you're worried about you know, that information being shared. So, but be sure your name is on it, and you're going to customize it for this. You could use PowerPoint to do it, Opal. That's pretty flexible, actually. You might also use Word, or you could use Google Docs, Google Slide. I used to use, what's Microsoft? Publisher. I've used Publisher before as well for newsletters. Now, in Word, I know there are newsletter templates that are preset, that are fairly easy to work with. It doesn't have to look like that newsletter I put up. You might have it just in paragraph form. So there's lots of different ways you could build this newsletter is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't have to look super professional. What I want to see is good content and maybe a few graphics in there so that it's eye-catching. Do you guys get the general idea there? You can do it. Yes, yay! Fantastic, guys. And please do contact me if you have any questions on this, because of course I want you to do well. I want to see some fantastic newsletters. Okay, let's talk about folders really quick. Some of you guys have probably used this with your children or maybe in an ECE center. Weekly communication folder, or some centers use daily communication folders. So basically just a folder that goes from school to the parents, and sometimes they bring it home on Fridays, sometimes they bring it home every day. When my kids were in kindergarten and first grade at their school in Joplin, this communication folder came home every day. It included assignments. It included information about what's going on in the classroom. It also included a book to be read each night with my child and a reading log where we had to sign off on what book we read and what night we read it on as well. So there's lots of different things that can go back and forth in these communication folders, and it really acts as a great method of getting things to parents, getting information to parents, and of course it's on the parents to find that folder, track it down, open it up, and see all the stuff that's on the inside as well. So we kind of love that method. Okay, active listening, which you guys have been doing this week. Active listening is listening to both verbal and nonverbal signals that we're getting. Yes, you sure have, Kyle, that's right. See, I just reflected back to you. You reflect back of what you're hearing so that you know that you are understanding this exactly the way the message is meant to come across. The fantastic thing about listening person to person is you can see so much more and understand so much more than you would maybe in a text message or in an email. You can also paraphrase, focus on the speaker, really focus on listening, show interest with your body language and chair arrangement. So what do you think that means? What would be an example of body language or chair arrangement that's showing that you're listening? You guys tell me. And again, this is something you may not necessarily think about. Sitting up straight shows that you're focused, face to face, nodding in agreement. Yep, that's good too, Desiree. Chair arrangement, facing each other. Exactly. And your knees should actually be facing them as well, as opposed to off to the side. Legs being off to the side, or maybe your arms being off to the side, kind of indicates you're ready to run. You're ready to get out of there. Okay, making eye contact is very important, Patty, and some people are more comfortable with that than others. Very good examples, guys. Hands on desk, exactly. Maybe hands clasped together. I've always heard that if you have your hands on your lap, to put palms up, and that shows that you're an open person, that you're open to ideas, and that you're a good listener. So, as opposed to arms crossed across the chest, which is kind of defensive. So don't do that. No movement, not necessarily, right. So you're not trying to get away from them, you're focusing on them. That's right, Jasmine. Good job, guys. So you get the general idea, and these are some of the things. Oh, put your cell phone away. Petty, that is a good one. That really is, yes. Don't be checking your messages. Don't be looking down at the phone for Facebook. Exactly, Kyle. Oh, I got a like on Facebook. This is more important than you. Don't do that. Don't do that. And that comes up with that term from a few weeks ago, phubbing. Don't be a phone snob. That's right. No phone snubbing. So think about all of these things. And in your active listening diary this week, these are some of the things that you can think about you doing or the other person doing that might be roadblocks. Very good, guys. Let me see. What to say when you call about a problem. Guys, this is going to happen. We can't have a classroom full of perfect children. Nobody's perfect. At some point, there is going to be an issue. So, you're making that phone call. What do? Well, first, begin with a statement of sincere concern. So you want to state what's going on. Describe the specific behavior. You know, this is why I'm calling. Describe steps you have already taken to solve the problem. So we're not just calling you on a first instance. You know, let's take, for example, biting, because this happens quite a bit. It's very normal. It's a normal part of child development that some kids will bite more. So maybe we're telling them how many times it's happened and what we've done, and we're asking for their input as well. So we want to get information from the parent. We want to present to them some of the ideas that we've come up at the center. Express confidence in your ability to address the problem, and then plan for some follow-up contact. So this is where it's very important that you're building the relationship. You've been building relationships with your parents all along, so that when this phone call happens, you can talk about it. You can throw a little honesty in there and be open and try to solve this problem together as a team. Now, sometimes you may also have an angry parent. And you know, guys, lots of times anger from a parent's point of view can sometimes come from them getting misinformation or not all of the information. And goodness, it could even go back to what they've encountered earlier on in the day. Maybe this has nothing to do with the school or the child, but this is coming out. Anger's coming out, and we need to know how to manage it. First of all, try to stay cool. Diffuse the situation if possible. Now, this first sentence, ask the parent to calm down a little. I would not use those terms. Calm down a little. I've seen it before that those words do not cause people to calm down. It can cause the opposite, can it? So maybe taking a few deep breaths, speaking to them in a calm voice. Ask them if they'd like to go somewhere and talk, maybe stepping outside the classroom into a conference room, or, if necessary, even down to the principal's office or director's office. Use your reflective and your active listening here, making the eye contact, showing them that you are listening to them. Ask for clarification if you're unsure. Set up future meetings or a conference. So let's diffuse the situation, reflect what they just said, and then say, hey, how about let's talk about this tomorrow. And what that can sometimes do is give them a day to think about it. Smile at them. There you go, Kyle. Smile at them. Keep your sense of humor. Keep your cool, because they're going to be reflecting off you. Many times those emotions can be catchy, and we don't want to catch the anger side of it. Follow up the next day. Even if your meeting is not this day, call or make sure you talk to them and ask how they feel about the situation now. See if maybe thinking about it overnight has helped a little bit, or maybe give them more information about the situation. Okay? And if you're in a volatile situation, and I hope this doesn't happen to you, but first of all, protect yourself. If you have an extremely angry parent or caregiver, maybe they've said, I'm on the way to your school. Maybe they're making threats. First of all, get other people involved. Don't do this alone. Don't take it on yourself. Use physical barriers if necessary, and call the police if necessary if this is involving threats. Do not be afraid to take that step if you're genuinely afraid. Of course, you're going to be connecting with your other teachers first, your director first, and then they will decide if we're making that call to the police. Remember, safety is a priority, your safety, but also all the children in your classroom as well. So protect yourself, protect your children, go from there, right? I love this. Parent-teacher conferences. Those of you on mobile devices may not be able to see it. It says parent-teacher night. You must be Timmy's dad. I'm Timmy's teacher. Does this remind you of a few kids? Remember that you're both dealing with the same kid, right? Sometimes both can feel frazzled, and what you do as a teacher is you help support them, and they help support you. So it goes both ways. Okay, lastly, parent-teacher conferences. And I know this is something they do at almost all centers. Guidelines. What are your goals for the conference? What do you want to accomplish here? Have them written down. Have a parent conference planning sheet. In fact, there's plenty of samples on those on the internet, or your school or your center may provide this for you. Have comfortable, quiet seating, and I have seen this done before. Do not have the parents sit in the seats that the little kids do, because squatting down to get into a child-sized seat is sort of belittling. Some of us have done this before, Patty, that's right. Some of us don't fit. That's another thing, especially in regular desks. So you want to provide the parents with comfortable adult-sized seating. Have assessments or examples of their work that you can share with them at the conference, maybe a daily log of the things that they're doing. Start with a positive note on the child. Even if they're having lots of issues, you want to make that positive sandwich where you state a good thing, and then maybe something that needs to be worked on, and then end with another good thing. Okay, sandwich those together. Share specific information in all areas of development. They don't just want to hear, hey, they're doing good. They want to hear specifics. Where are they doing best and where do they maybe need a little work in? Pause to allow parents a little time to share about their kids. And of course, we want to hear this information, be honest, summarize the meeting, develop goals and strategies, and then always do a follow-up, especially if we're dealing with maybe a behavior issue or a developmental issue. Maybe we've brought it out in the conference, and then we want to do a follow-up maybe a week later to talk about that. And this is where your calendar comes into play, a teacher calendar, where you make your notes on what days you need to call specific parents as a reminder. As a teacher, one of the biggest things you're going to do is organize, keeping your information, keeping your lesson plans, keeping your daily schedule. So we really want to focus on that now and start making planning for the future. I know some of you have done that with your Pinterest boards as well, that classroom organization is one of your boards. And those of you that are new, I think I brought this up, in future classes we'll be using Pinterest. So if you don't already have a Pinterest account, you might start setting that up. It's a free account, and start getting used to it a little bit. Okay? So lastly, it'll click over here. Questions. Do you guys have any questions that you can think of? We haven't focused too much on the final assignment for this course, but it does have to do with planning. It has to do with webbing. Oh, wait. No, we have a final exam in this course. I'm sorry, I got you mixed up with ECE 105. So that's why we haven't been talking about our final project. You have a final exam. So with each week, you just need to continue on doing your discussion boards, doing your weekly quiz, getting those assignments in on time, and be sure and check to see if there's anything that you're missing. Okay, this would be a great week to do that, and that way you have week 4 to get caught up as needed. All right, any questions that you can think of, guys? This was a very talky class for me tonight. I'm sorry. No? Doing good. No questions. All right, guys, you can go ahead and get out of here for the night if you'd like. It looks like we're getting ready to get a little more rain in northeast Oklahoma. I hope you get a little bit as well. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.